British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Good morning. My name is Sophie Hansen. Good morning. My name is Sophie Hansen, and these are your morning headlines to 11 o'clock. The president of the local union representing handy-dart workers says mediation at the Labour Board with its employer Transdev closed after 8 p.m. last night. Transdev says it needs several days to consider the union's last proposal. Joe McCann, president of the Amalgamated Transit Union, Local 1724, says Transdev informed the union through the mediator that they would not be able to meet and provide a counterproposal until later this week. Another rally is expected tomorrow outside of the TransLink office in New Westminster. The two men convicted for their roles in the 2022 Coutts-Alberta border blockade are expected to be sentenced later today. Last month, a jury found Anthony Olenek and Chris Carbert not guilty of the most serious charge, conspiracy to murder police officers. They were convicted of public mischief over $5,000 and possessing a firearm dangerous to the public peace. Olenek was also convicted of possessing a pipe bomb. The border blockade was one of several held across Canada to protest the COVID-19 restrictions. BC Wildlife Services says crews are responding to a wildfire located about 30 kilometers east of Wells. The fire can be seen from Ghost Lake Road recreation site, while no structures or communities are affected by this fire. Authorities are on standby as the fire continues to burn more than 123 hectares in size. In more wildfire news, over 10,000 people are facing mandatory evacuation orders in response to a fast-spreading fire in Southern California. The wildfire started last week and grew rapidly over the weekend, prompting California Governor Gavin Newsom to declare a state of emergency. The cause of the initial fire is still under investigation. And back to Canada, Air Canada is preparing for a potential shutdown of most operations next week, as it says its contract talks with its pilots union remain far apart. Canadian press reporter Ian Bickus says the airline has described the union's wage demands as, quote, excessive, noting a work stoppage is very likely.
There is, I guess, potential to kind of sweeten the deal the next week. Things are definitely rapidly approaching the strike notice date, which would be September 15th, when either side could give 72 hours notice that they're going to do a labor action.
Air Canada says it will begin winding down operations if notice is issued on September 15th, and the process would take place gradually over 3 days. Former Canadian fashion designer Peter Nygaard has been sentenced to 11 years in prison following allegations of sexual assault dating back to the 1980s. The 83-year-old was sentenced earlier this morning by the Ontario Superior Court Justice Robert Goldstein. In November, a jury found Nygaard guilty of 4 counts of sexual assault. He was found not guilty of an additional count of sexual assault and 1 count of forcible confinement. Further sentencing was delayed after Nygaard had difficulties finding a lawyer to represent him in court. Palestine has shared a draft UN resolution that demands Israel end its, quote, unlawful presence in Gaza and the West Bank within 6 months. It follows a July ruling by the top United Nations court that said Israel's presence in the Palestinian territories is unlawful and must end. Israeli ambassadors to the UN, Danny Danon, denounced the draft resolution, called for it to be rejected, and describes it as, quote, a reward for terrorism, end quote. The Palestinian draft resolution, if adopted, would not be legally binding. El Salvador's military says the national police director, other high-ranking police officials, and a fugitive banker were among 9 people killed in military helicopter crash in a rural part of the country. El Salvador's president says in a post on X, what happened cannot remain as a simple accident. It must be investigated thoroughly. In lighter news, the Princess of Wales says she's finished her course of chemotherapy, and is now focused on staying cancer-free. In a video posted online, Kate describes the last 9 months as scary and unpredictable.
With humility, it also brings you face to face with your own vulnerabilities. in a way you've never considered before. And with that, a new perspective on everything.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
These have been your morning headlines.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.